Here's a question. How did you sleep last night? Last week, I was working on some stories for the Something Scary podcast, and it was a bit difficult to go ahead and go back to sleep. Luckily, I had the soft comfort of my Attitude bed sheets to rely on. I just discovered Attitude is the most sustainable bedding company on the planet. Better for the environment, organic clean bamboo recycles 98% of the water it uses. So why not try Attitude? These amazing sheets have a 30-day risk-free trial. If you're not fully satisfied, you can return your sheets for a full refund. They even cover shipping on returns. Attitude sheets. They're soft as silk, breathable as linen, but at the price of cotton. You're going to love them. When you support our sponsors, you support our show. And right now, our listeners will get 20% off their sheet set and free shipping. Just text SCARY to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off your set of Attitude sheets and free shipping is to text SCARY to 64,000. That's SCARY to 64000. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, I'm Markeia.
Want to hear something scary?
The haunting of the USS Forrestal. Ships are always a place where spirits have roamed, especially those that have seen bloody battles. Today's story, inspired by Laura S., is a tale whose ghosts remain. When I was little, my dad loved telling me unbelievable stories, but there was one that he waited to tell me until I was ready, whatever that meant. As always, I was skeptical. The story began on the USS Forrestal, an aircraft carrier for the U.S. Navy, where my dad was stationed in the 1970s. Dad worked night shifts, and along with his best friend, Bruce, took turns making supply runs deep below deck. Most of my dad's runs were to the supply room, a dark, cluttered space where no other crew members ever went. One night, my dad had just entered the supply room when, from the corner of his eye, he saw a man watching him from across the room. Dad turned, but the man was gone. Shaken, Dad grabbed the part he needed and hurried back on deck. He kept what he'd seen to himself, chalking it up to lack of sleep. But that first sighting was only the beginning. Another night, in a different area of the ship, my dad had to travel down an extremely long hallway, so long that it took 15 minutes to go from one side to the other. 5 minutes in, my dad began to smell smoke. He couldn't see any in the air, but the stench was bad enough to make him start coughing. Then he heard a terrible sound. A frantic, choking man was running up to him from down the hall, gasping for air. My dad ran for him and saw that the man's white t-shirt was covered in sweat, his eyes sunken in, his mouth toothless and wrinkled. The man reached for my dad's shoulder, but instead of grabbing it, he passed right through my dad's body. By the time Dad turned around, the man had vanished. Now, Dad really wanted to tell someone what he'd seen, but back on deck, he stayed quiet while Bruce made small talk. Navy men weren't known for being honest about their emotions, Dad explained, especially if it involved fear. Over the months that followed, he continued to have the creepiest encounters, like hearing laughter in the mess hall after hours, seeing boxes tip over on their own in the supply room, and smelling the same odd smell of smoke in the hallway. Some nights, Dad said, Bruce looked stressed like he was seeing the same things too, but still, for fear of sounding crazy, Dad kept it all to himself. Until one night, just before his tour was about to end. While bringing an engine part up to the deck with Bruce, the two saw 4 fellow sailors ablaze, leaping into the ocean. Without a word, they sprang into action and jumped overboard after the men. My dad swam to the nearest sailor. He reached out, expecting to feel the heat from the burned man's hand, but instead, it felt like a block of ice. The sailor barely looked human. His charred skin had all but melted off. He gripped my dad's forearm for just an instant before swell washed over them and the sailor was gone. Searchlights beamed down, rafts hit the water, and my dad and Bruce were rescued. No other sailors were found. The story ended with what Bruce said to my dad. Those men weren't alive, were they? No. Dad replied. I saw something like this before, but I was afraid to ask you about it, he admitted. Same here, Bruce replied. Dad said from then on, when he sees something, he speaks up about it no matter what others might think. As for me, I got Dad's message, but I still didn't believe his story until, as a freshman in high school, I learned that in 1967 there had been a huge fire on the USS Forrestal. The flames burned for hours, killing 134 crew members, a number of whom died in that long hallway, while several others choked to death from smoke in the supply room. 4 men had also caught fire and jumped overboard. It looks like Dad hadn't made it up, after all. Thank you to all of our patrons. If you'd like to join our VIP program, visit patreon.com/snarled. Everybody knows what Neighborhood Watch is all about, right? It's about keeping our community safe and keeping our neighbors in the know-how. It can be about things as sweet as welcoming new neighbors to the neighborhood or banding together to banish that poltergeist that's in your patio. Well, get this. The Neighborhood Watch is now an app on your phone. The app's called Neighbors and it's by Ring. It's that same company that does video doorbells and security cameras. With the Neighbors app, you receive real-time crime and safety alerts from your neighbors. And it's free, and you don't even have to own a Ring device. The app was super helpful for me last weekend when I thought that my neighbors were out of town, but their house was lit up and there was a car that I didn't recognize in the driveway. Well, I went to the Neighbors app and they were able to let me know that no, it was just some relatives that were going to use the house for the weekend. So I didn't have to worry and they didn't have to worry. So if you want to see what's going on in your neighborhood, download the free Neighbors app today. Go to ring.com/scary to download from the Apple or Android app stores. That's ring.com/scary. Want more Something Scary? You can hear more stories over at the Something Scary podcast, which you can listen to free on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The links are in the description below. If you'd like to submit a story, then you can send us an email at somethingscary@snarled.com. Like and share this video if it gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe to Snarled and turn on the bell for notifications. And if you dare, follow me on social media. Until then, my dark darlings, sweet dreams.